Alright, rather than have you guys watch me, like, pull this rifle out of this stuff right here, I'm just going to tell you what this was. It was wrapped in bubble wrap with a cardboard sleeve around it. I took it all out of there. It took me like 15 minutes to get it out. And here we are. Hello there, people of the internet. This right here is a 6.5 Vetterli rifle recently received. And I figured that I'd go ahead and make a video showing it off. I do already have one of these. This right here is a second one that has been added to the collection because the first one is kind of really on the sketchy side. So I'm hoping that with two Vetterli rifles, I should be able to at least combine them to make one halfway decent Vetterli rifle. So this is what we're looking at. And I gotta say, I'm not that disappointed with this particular example of a Vetterli. These rifles were originally converted from old school black powder rifles, and they're definitely not strong enough to handle modern smokeless rounds, which is what these are actually chambered for. So if you decide to actually use these, you gotta hand load your rounds and you gotta undercharge your ammunition so you don't blow up your rifle. People love pointing out that C and Arsenal blew up two of these rifles. And they have all sorts of theories as to why it happened, and one of the more common ones I hear is that the barrel sleeve inside of these came loose, and that is what led to the rifles blowing up. Well, C and Arsenal had an issue with a cracked sleeve back here on the locking system, which has nothing to do with the sleeve up here in the barrel. So with those that cracked sleeve on that locking system, that rifle is officially unsafe to use for obvious reasons. And the other was a case head separation, which could potentially be an issue with the sleeve, but I don't think it was. I believe that it was more or less either a headspace issue, which would not really have come from the sleeve. We'll dive into that here in a second whenever I show you guys what I'm talking about there. Or from corrosion or rust or something in the chamber. There's, multiple reasons why you'd have a case head separation, but the case head separation more or less caused the stock on their Vetterli to break. So there's another reason. So the action is known to be weak simply because it is black powder. It's plenty strong enough for black powder. It was just not designed for smokeless powder because smokeless powder did not exist yet. So the action is known to be weak, and we do have some issues with the chambers on these rifles, and a lot of that has to do with the material that the barrel sleeve is made of. Not necessarily the barrel sleeve itself, or the processes of inserting it into the chamber, and we'll go more in depth on that here in a second. Before we do that, let's go ahead and check out this rifle. So this being from RTI, it is disgusting and dirty, and it definitely needs cleaned up and loved. However, that being said, since these were converted by Italy and known to not really be all that strong, they weren't really used all that much in any kind of real active service. So as a result, these rifles tend to be in pretty gosh darn good shape. And this one is in actually pretty gosh darn good shape. I don't see any real issues with any wood on this thing. We do have a little bit of what looks like termite damage on the wood right there, but it's definitely not something that I would concern myself with. So this right here is a Turney Production 1889 made rifle. We got ourselves a couple of marks right there, serial numbers, proof marks, all that good stuff. Our rear sight is intact, and it does look like it is functional. Now, this Vetterli is actually in much better shape than my other Vetterli is. My other Vetterli is just, it seems to be extremely worn down. We got plenty of bluing left on the barrel. We are missing our cleaning rod. And we got our bayonet lug attachment on the end of the barrel. And it's complete with a front sight. So all that being said, let's actually open up the rifle and see. Alright, well, she's not that gritty. This is actually not that bad at all. Like, in comparison to my other Vetterli rifle, this is definitely doable. So, where C and Arsenal had their issue, this sleeve right here on the locking system, that broke, and that was just due to overpressure. They were running 85% loads whenever that happened, and that's 85% of full power Carcano ammo, which is not full power. It's really not all that powerful ammunition. It's a little bit more powerful than 7.62x39. I'd classify it more as an intermediate cartridge than a full power rifle cartridge. But they had 85% loads, and they managed to crack this sleeve right here with the locking lugs on it. And that is one of the issues that they ran into, and that's just due to overpressure. The second time, they had a case blowout, and whenever the case blew out, it was right there in the chamber, and the expelling gases popped out right here, which is the leftover remains of the previous magazine system. And the gases popping out of that little hole right there blew the stock apart, and then they had a Vetterli with a broken stock. Now, a lot of times people say that these barrels, which are sleeved, they were a 10.4 millimeter, I believe, and they were sleeved for a 6.5. They tell me that the sleeves tend to walk and basically pop out of the gun and whatnot, simply because they were soldered in and not really welded in. Well, the way that these were installed inside these rifles, they actually have a stair-step system inside of the barrels. It's not just one straight wall sleeve. There's a stair-step system inside the barrel, so as you shoot this rifle, it pushes against those stairs to ensure that the sleeve does not go anywhere. That being said, the sleeve seems to be made out of an incredibly soft and crude material. It seems to be a very not all that great steel. It has dramatic issues with rusting from what I've been able to gather. So that has led these rifles to have significant issues with the chamber. If you have a sleeve that is walking, you can actually look at the end of your barrel to see if the sleeve on your barrel, go ahead and readjust my camera here, to see if the sleeve on your barrel is still flush with the front of your muzzle. And if that sleeve is still flush, then the sleeve is where it needs to be. So you shouldn't have any issues with that, unless you have issues with, say, rusting or something along those lines that would have given you issue inside the chamber itself. So I have shot my Vetterli on the channel before, if you guys want to go see that, and I'll probably end up shooting this one at some point. I've taken up using, 50% loads just like CN Arsenal did, and I have had no issues with my other Vetterli, and I don't think I'll have issues with this one either. I use IMR 4064. It's a nice, slow-ish burning powder. It's just a really, really good option if you're going to be running something inside, or something like this right here. Definitely don't go using something like, I don't know, Tight Group or something. That would be a bad idea. So these right here can be safe rifles if you load for them accordingly, and if you know what you're looking for, pay attention to make sure that your chamber is good. I recommend getting yourself headspace gauges just to make sure that the headspace is on par with where it needs to be. Bear in mind that these rifles are converted rifles done by a country who did not really think that these rifles were going to be all that much. And, well, whenever I say not going to be all that much, they were not intended to actually be used for anything more than, oh crap, the enemy's coming, we need rifles, we need them now, and this is better than nothing. So the Italians did not really have much intention on actually using these rifles unless it was like a dire emergency. So a lot of these rifles were given out to many countries as like aid and whatnot. So they got sent off to be other people's problems. So the Italians already half-assed these rifles, and combine that half-assery with the issues that we're talking about right now, like the systems being the systems being too weak to be able to handle the actual full-powered ammunition, and issues with the internal sleeve rusting and just being softer metal or lesser quality metal than it's actually supposed to be. And you end up with a 100-and-something-year-old rifle, in this case like 130-year-old rifle, that could potentially give you problems unless you specifically know what you're looking for and specifically know how to load for it. So this Vetterli is in working order. I have already pulled the trigger on this thing. The trigger is not nearly as nice as my other Vetterli. My other Vetterli has had some work done, not by me, probably by the Ethiopians, which is where this rifle came from. It's had some work done to the trigger, clearly, and it has an incredibly nice trigger on it. Probably a 3-pound or so trigger. It is an incredibly accurate rifle. But if I pull this one, oh boy, that is really gritty and sticky. And that's more like a, I don't know, 12-pound trigger on this one. So the trigger is not nearly as nice. Let me go ahead and grab myself a 6.5 Carcano round, and we will bore test this rifle. I am willing that the bore test is going to go very well. Like I said before, these rifles didn't really see significant use just because they were already known to be unsafe. And getting a full-length rifle on camera like this is definitely a little on the difficult side. So, survey says, yep, that right there has plenty of meat left inside of it. I'm willing to bet that this rifle is going to be plenty accurate. So, it's not rusty. The barrel is... the sleeve inside the barrel is where it needs to be, and it is not... It's not shot out. The rifling is still good. We got plenty of meat in this thing. So I'm willing to bet that with appropriate loadings for this rifle, it will be a pretty gosh darn accurate rifle and comfortable to shoot. Even if I do have issues with this rifle, I could take some bits and pieces from my other rifle, which I know fires just fine, and I could combine them, and, well, that's where we would be left. So that might be what I do. I see our Carcano style magazine here is a little bit different than the Carcano style magazines that I'm used to seeing. It almost looks like this particular one is milled, whereas the other ones I've seen are stamped. So that's a cool little piece right there. Alright, well, I think I've rambled on long enough about this particular Vetterli. We were just checking it out in this video. So, thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.